Good afternoon, everybody. Wanted to come to you with another stream to give you an update on where the lay of the land is this afternoon. And something that we have at least seen some improvement across parts of the area is that we've seen some of the tornado watch be peeled back. So folks that are in Fulton, DeKalb counties, stretching to the west into Douglas County and points to the north, you are no longer included in that tornado watch. We actually think the atmosphere is going to stabilize a little bit more so that the severe potential there has decreased tremendously. Still watching an active tornado watch until 7 o'clock for folks that are in Rockdale, Newton counties, Henry County, Fayette, Clayton counties, down towards Coweta County and Heard County, and points to the south. And we're going to keep this watch going until around the 7 o'clock hour. And that's going to include Troup, Meriwether, and down towards Upson County. Still a very active day on first alert radar. Still a lot of lightning, a lot of strong thunderstorms moving through the area here. We do have a couple of active tornado or severe thunderstorm warnings, and one of those warnings has been allowed to expire. You can see that there is a line of storms to the south and west of LaGrange. Troup County, Meriwether County, I want to give you the heads up. That cell that's to the south and west of you, there is a lot of lightning. I'll move the screen up a little bit. There's a lot of lightning here, and there is also some broad rotation. So whenever we see rotation higher up in the atmosphere, we get a little bit concerned because if the rotation tightens, that's whenever the National Weather Service will issue a tornado warning, because you're at least getting that rotation that can lead to a funnel cloud that could potentially come down and touch the ground. Already seeing evidence of at least some broad circulation. So keep an eye on this in Troup County, Meriwether County, and eventually Coweta County, because this is kind of making a beeline for you. I think Troup County, Meriwether counties that would get impacted the most by this thunderstorm, but at least most likely another severe thunderstorm warning will be pushed to the north and east as we head through the next half hour or so. And then we're already watching another severe thunderstorm warning that is including portions of Coweta County. This warning is set to expire at around 3:30. This is going to include folks that are in Hogansville, Greenville, Luthersville, up towards Sonoy. So this is going to be folks that are in Meriwether County and Coweta County, stretching into portions of Spalding County and Pike County. So once again, an active severe thunderstorm warning. We can kind of query some of our tools, and I'm looking off to the screen here, guys, because I have my computer here that's going to allow me to do more than just look at a singular image. We can dive into these thunderstorms and pick up a little bit more than just what the eye sees, and we can pick up on some very gusty winds here. We had at least a decent bit of rotation in this area about 10 minutes ago. That rotation has since waned a little bit. We are getting closer to the radar site, admittedly, so this could get a little bit muddy. We could switch radar sites and see if we still pick up on at least that broad circulation. But it's something that we're watching. Some very, very gusty winds in this area, and we've seen some radar indicated 50+ miles per hour winds, and we're still seeing some of that inside of that warning area. I can zoom in here. This is going to be just to the south of East Coweta High School here. Folks that are in Turin, Sonoy, Brooks, you're included in this warning, and you're seeing those winds start to kick up as well. And this is moving off to the northeast. A lot of these storms have been moving at roughly 35 miles per hour or so, and that is expected to continue to be the trajectory. So this is headed towards folks that are in Woolsey. If you're in Hampton, Williamson, Griffin, you'll have to at least watch this storm for these winds. And unfortunately, some of these communities, this is not your first severe thunderstorm today. We've already had a very active day as far as these severe thunderstorms, and most likely that is going to at least continue for the next couple of hours. We just have a very unstable air mass that is in place. So I do want to track this out. I can kind of draw a little bit of a tracker on this. The leading edge of this, it's moving roughly at 35 miles per hour to the northeast. So this is going to arrive in Luthersville at around 3:15. So if you're in Luthersville, outside isn't the place you want to be right now. This is a severe thunderstorm warning, so we're not telling you to shelter in place in a sense that you would with a tornado warning, but I wouldn't be outside, I wouldn't be by the window, right? This is going to arrive in Turin at around 3:30, Sonoy 3:38, Stars Mill High School. Shouldn't be anybody out there on a Sunday, but if there's anybody working the grounds, this will be pushing into your neck of the woods at around 3:42, arriving in Brooks at around 3:50, Lovejoy 4:06. So this is an active severe thunderstorm warning. It is the only severe thunderstorm warning that we have active in our area right now. I know a lot of times whenever we get on these streams, a lot of folks, they're looking for their neighborhood, they're looking for their community to find out what's the lay of the land here. And you can see that across portions of far north Georgia, the activity is just not as aggressive. One way that you can look at radar, you obviously look at this version of radar, which is reflectivity. You look for reds, oranges, purples. That indicates heavier downpours, but you also can look for lightning because lightning can be indicative of a very strong storm. And we're seeing a little bit of lightning. And if you're out in Clark and Coney counties, you got a nice cell on top of you. We can dive into that cell just because I know some folks are out there wondering what's going on. No active warning here. Probably at least some decent winds, 30, 40 miles per hour winds at most, probably moving through Athens, Watkinsville. This is going to be moving through North High Shoals, stretching all the way down towards Rutledge. It's headed to the north and east, so this is going to be exiting our viewing area over the course of the next hour. But this area is technically still right on the cusp. I think they're just outside of the tornado watch area, so not expecting anything tornadic here. But we'll have to watch to see how this interacts with the limited energy that is out there right now. Looks like you're just getting some heavier downpours there and some lightning. And we could query the winds just to give folks at least an idea of what's happening with the winds in that region. But I suspect that you're probably in the 20 to 30 miles per hour wind gust range there. Yeah, you're at 28, 36. Yeah, so you're way below severe limitations here. Typically, for you to have a severe thunderstorm warning, you need those winds upwards of 58 miles per hour as far as the gusts are concerned. That's one of the parameters. You can also have hail. If the hail is what we consider to be quarter size or an inch in diameter, that gets you a severe thunderstorm warning. Or if there's decent enough winds that are rotating, you can actually get a severe thunderstorm warning for a rotation. Technically, it would be a tornado, but that would be the warning criteria there to make a storm severe, right? So nothing to be terribly concerned about in that area. There's some heavy downpours, and that is stretching into Morgan County along I-20. If folks are heading through the Madison, Rutledge area, you're going to run into some heavy downpours in that region, but not really seeing anything that is ominous for that part of the state, and that's why we're not really focusing on that. We're really watching where all of the energy is, and it's really this area here. And I mean, there is a tornado, there is an active tornado watch for this area as well, but this is the area where we're just seeing things the most destabilized, and this is making a beeline. So this is going to be moving out eventually towards Griffin, maybe the south part of Tyrone, and eventually McDonough. That could be moving into your area over the course of the next hour or two, because these are moving about 35 miles per hour, so still a little bit of a ways away. But we have to track this as it moves this way because there is still plenty of energy. This line is basically moving due east, but all of the moisture and the instability, all the storms, they're firing up and they're moving from the southwest to the northeast. So it's very possible that a lot of these communities are going to get a training of storms, and that's exactly what we're expecting to happen because folks out in Coweta County, you've already had a severe thunderstorm roll through your area and produce some significant rainfall. We had some areas that have already picked up an inch and a half, inch and a quarter of rain that's already been confirmed, and now we have more storms that are going to be producing heavy downpours headed in those same areas. So something that we're keeping a very casual eye on as we head through the next couple of hours. Once again, this is a very aggressive storm just to the south and west of Troup County, south and west of LaGrange. This is just outside of our viewing area, but the way that tornado warnings work, you like to get the warning, you like to get the heads up as much as possible, so we don't wait until the storm gets into the backyard. We track that storm when it's down the street so that we can give our folks at least enough lead room to get ready for it. So this is looking like it's pushing through Opelika. I can kind of dive into this, and I'm actually going to switch radar sites, and I'm going to turn off lightning because I want to see if I can get at least a better hold on what's happening there. And the rotation signature, still very, very, very broad. So not anything that is imminent, nothing that is tight. But if you've watched these storms in the past, you know that it doesn't take long. It takes a 5-minute cycle essentially sometimes to get these storms from a broad rotation to, that's a tight rotation, tight couplet. So something we'll continue to monitor. At the very least, I do think that folks that are in portions of LaGrange, south of LaGrange, Troup County, I think you at least have to worry about another severe thunderstorm moving through. Gusty winds sometimes can be just as bad as anything else. And I'm hearing a little bit of action here at Atlanta News First here, and I can turn back on the lightning because I'm hearing a little thunder, a little lightning, and we're getting some of that now moving into the city. But I know a lot of viewers, a lot of folks that are joining us right now, y'all are in there like, okay, that first one that came through, that one was a doozy. Actually, at Hartsville Jackson, we were querying a lot of those wind speeds real time, and A lot of our queries were 50, 55, 60. We even got like upper 60s, low 70s for a little bit in parts of the metro. Well, at least at Hartsville-Jackson, which is just one location, we have at least confirmed a 55 miles per hour wind gust. So something that we're going to continue to monitor and dive into some of these other sites. The good news about the First Alert Weather Team, we are the largest group of meteorologists all working for the same station in the Southeast. I do have First Alert meteorologist JD Disharoon with me now. He is doing some tracking this storm out about 35 miles per hour, moving to the north and east. It is headed towards folks that are in Luthersville, actually overhead right now. If you're in Luthersville, you need to kind of be away from the doors. And we said this earlier, right? So with tornado warnings, we're always telling you, get to your safe place, get there, hang out. With severe thunderstorms, we have the same conversation. The tone is a little bit different, right? I was having this conversation with one of the members of our desk. He has a bunch of trees in his yard, lives out in North Cobb County. A lot of trees out there. He's finally got somebody out there to take care of those trees. They're older, big trees. Concerned every time that storms come through that those trees could come down on his house. And I was having a conversation with him. I was like, well, you can't really rush the process here. You got an appointment scheduled. They're going to come out when they come out. We got storms here and there. The only thing you can do is be smart about what happens whenever you do get a severe thunderstorm warning. You get a severe thunderstorm warning, every once in a while, there's that one tree that falls somewhere. I was taking a run in Piedmont Park one day, just ran up on a tree in the park that just had fell because of a 50 miles per hour wind gust. What you can do in these type of situations is you can prepare by, okay, let's look at the house. All the trees there in the front yard, they're huge. So there's some strong thunderstorms. We got a TV in the den. Let's go to the back. Let's hang out in the back part of the house. That's the type of safety we're talking about here. We're not talking about massively stopping your day. We're just telling you, whenever you have strong winds coming through, you don't want to be in an area that could be prone to some issues. So right now, at least, a severe thunderstorm that's producing some strong wind. There was some rotation in this that was very broad earlier in this cell, so we'll keep watching it as it continues to push off towards the north and east. And it does appear that to the south of it, the National Weather Service has extended a severe thunderstorm warning into those counties that we were telling you about that could be included. That's going to be looking for a city. That looks like Troup and Meriwether counties, right? Yeah.
Meriwether, Harris, Muskogee, and Talbot County.
Yeah.
So kind of half in our area, half in the Columbus, Georgia viewing area as well. So it's a really southern edge, but it's just like the other systems that we've been seeing. We're looking for mainly going to be a 60-mile-an-hour wind threat with the leading edge of this line that's going to be pushing off in. And if you see me looking down, it's because I'm literally reading the wording from the warning that was just issued here. So they are saying that there is a tornado possible with this. They are seeing some broad rotation at one of the levels of the atmosphere. But overall, damaging wind threat with this as it continues to move off towards the northeast. This one moving a little quicker than the other ones. This one moving about 55 miles an hour. So, basically, the systems themselves, I'm going to take the mouse from you real quick and zoom out just a bit. So overall, when you look at this wide swath of rain here, overall is not moving. We're watching it move from the southwest to the northeast. It's one of the reasons that we have the flood watch in effect. It's one of the reasons that flooding is going to be a huge potential concern as we head overnight into tomorrow morning. What is moving east are the individual cells, particularly at the leading edge of this, because the thunderstorm processes, the whole things that make them go is kind of nudging them over to the east. So because of that, they're all going to be moving at slightly different speeds. So even though we saw the ones earlier today at 35, this particular bad boy is looking at 55. And I'm going to go ahead and guess because this one looks to be a little bit stronger than the other ones. So if you notice, take a look at the two different areas where we have lightning with this particular storm. So we have this severe thunderstorm warning up here. Now compare the lightning in that area to what we have with this particular one down here. So overall, as Patrick was telling us about 5 minutes ago, lightning is a great indicator for us. It's not necessarily how many strikes there are. It's how those strikes are changing. If you go from a little to a lot over a short amount of time, it's a great indicator that that thunderstorm is strengthening. It's building higher and higher into the atmosphere, able to tap into more of that energy, and that's going to allow it to become a stronger, possibly more severe storm. Flip side is, once you see the lightning starting going down, it's usually an indicator the storm is collapsing on itself and that the severe threat is slowly starting to diminish. I say slowly because usually sometimes when that happens, we see a nice little rush of air that's going to be coming out of this. And in fact, the National Weather Service is talking about maybe some outflow boundaries coming off of this particular cell. And I say outflow boundary, so basically what that is this particular line here, basically winds are going to be rushing out ahead of it. Not quite severe winds, But still, we're talking 40-mile-an-hour winds possibly from that particular thunderstorm that's weakening. And the flip side of that is, so when these start to converge, come together, so you got this little outflow that's going to be pushing this way, you got this storm that's coming this way, that outflow, that can actually help the other storm start to increase in intensity as well. So it's just a lot of different things that we're going to be looking for, and the fact that the actual overall system itself really isn't moving is making it just that much more complicated trying to track these. And it's one of the reasons all of these storms overall are moving fairly slowly, and why this isn't going to be a one and done type of system. We're going to be continuing to watch rounds and rounds of rain slide through Georgia, Alabama, the Carolinas as we head overnight and into tomorrow morning. So that's just a little bit of an inside look into the processes of what we're thinking of and really what we're looking for as we head in to the overnight hours. And as Patrick said, once we get these thunderstorms out of the way, that's going to be a pretty large chunk of our area that the energy is just tapped. And so at that point, we're going to switch our concern to flooding heavy rains as we head into the evening and into the overnight hours. So Patrick, that's kind of a nice little roundup of what we're dealing with at the moment over the large scale.
Yeah, it's just a mess of a situation. Fortunately, you hear us say it sometimes, the conveyor belt of moisture, but there's just a lot moving from the southwest. And as First Alert Meteorologist J.D. Dishman said, the system itself overall is not moving. It's moving to the east, but it's really not moving that much, east-southeast. But you got all of this moisture pretty much moving from the southwest to the northeast. And that's why we're getting waves of rain and storms. And that's why some communities are getting hit again with strong storms. They've already had some storms roll through this area. Now, it does appear, based off of this trajectory, that at least Midtown may be spared from this round of storms. This is moving basically, this part of it is moving northeast. So it could miss Midtown, maybe hit the south part of the city here and lift off towards the north and east. Just depends on if we can get that storm to move out. But just a lot of energy, at least on this southern tail. A lot of times when we do these streams, everybody kind of gets lost on the areas that we're not mentioning. And if we're not mentioning you, it's because you're okay. We were talking about extreme North Georgia earlier this afternoon, how it's just a little bit more stable. You're going to have waves of rain. It's going to come and go. You're going to have a couple of rumbles of thunder, but you're just not going to get those very strong, robust thunderstorms there, just because the atmosphere just isn't that unstable there. We had dew points in the 40s and 50s in the North Georgia mountains, and those dew points were in the 60s, while temperatures were near 80 degrees across parts of South Georgia. This part of our viewing area, south of I-20. So that's just going to be the more unstable region, and that's where you're going to get more of this energy and more of these storms to push through the area here. So I do want to take you hour by hour, because I do think we're going to have more scattered rain and storms just lingering along this line, this boundary, as it just kind of like slowly crawls out of the area. Scattered rain and storms possible through the next couple of hours. By 6, 7 o'clock, the leading edge is pushing out. And when that leading edge pushes out, that's really going to be where the most unstable interaction is going to be. You're going to have this cold front pushing scattered rain and storms towards the east, interrupting a very warm, unstable air mass. They collide, and once they collide, the cooler, stabler air starts to push in. You got more moist. It's more stable on the back end of this. You got just more rain and even a stray rumble of thunder possible, but you're not going to have the intensity of these storms that you're seeing right now as we get closer to around 7, 8 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, you got the bulk of the line out of the area. There's going to be a scattering of showers that move in through the back end. And it's just going to be more rain and rumbles of thunder through the overnight. Working third shift, you're going to run into this as you head out of the door. Getting up early in the morning for first shift, you're going to run into this heading out the door. Scattered rain and storms. It's going to be a bit of a mess. And we still expect another 1 to 2 inches of widespread rain across the area. We're really going to be watching the southwestern corner, though, because the guidance is still hinting that we can pick up significant rainfall here. We'll dive into some of those rainfall rates in these thunderstorms in just a few minutes, but this is where we could get some significant rainfall from this event. But everybody has already been picking up some, and that means that there's a flooding risk. The flood watch is in effect through Monday evening, as an additional 2 inches of widespread rain continues to be a possibility. And this is essentially for all of our viewership as we transition past the stormy, severe part of this threat and eventually enter the phase of this where the conversation becomes more about the flooding, about the rainfall, about the impacts to the commutes, all of the commutes, because everybody is going to kind of have to at some point run into this mess of a situation with all of this rain. So I do want to dive back to First Alert Radar. Still hearing some lightning here at Atlanta News First, where we got lots of energy out there. I want to take a look at our rainfall rates here, and we can query that by looking at our accumulation. and we can dive into some of these storms. I am temporarily going to turn off the lightning just so that we can dive into some of these rainfall rates. And before I query this, so these storms, while the system is pushing slowly to the east, they are racing. First Alert Meteorologist J.D. Dishroom has mentioned that these are moving at 55 miles per hour. So this isn't going to sit over one location for an hour. But you can deduce that if these rainfall rates are high, upwards of 5 inches, and they're moving at 55 miles per hour, that they're pretty much dumping out about an inch or so in some of these locations as they're moving by. And some of these locations are going to pick up more than that. And I suspect that these rainfall rates are going to be higher than that. Yeah. We got over 6 inches per hour, the rainfall rates in some of these storms. And so that's something that we're going to be concerned about. Once again, I don't expect any location to get 5 to 7 inches of rain out of a singular thunderstorm. But the thunderstorm itself, if it just sat over one location and did not move, that's how much rain it would get. And we're getting what, roughly 5.2? What was that? You switched it over?
No, we had an update on it.
Okay.
So the numbers had all changed. But what we were seeing during the heaviest one was anywhere between 5 to 7 inches of rain per hour. So, and I just turned it on this particular one because I wanted to see how much rain has actually fallen in some of these areas. So obviously the leading edge of this, not quite as much because it hasn't rained there that much yet. But once you go back and you see some of these higher totals here where it has been raining, and keep in mind, these are the totals that are going to be rolling into the West Georgia area. You know, we're looking at so far portions of Heard and Troup counties have seen maybe a ½ inch to an inch of rain because these storms are kind of moving it. But because they keep moving over and over again, look back out towards your west. Then you start seeing 2 inches of rain, 3 inches of rain. And these are all just in the last few hours. And this is the showers and this rain and the heavy precipitation that's moving into your direction. And we're going to continue to watch, even though our totals right now are mainly less than an inch, we're going to watch them climb as we head into the evening hours. So that's one of the reasons we do have that first alert weather day for Monday, even though the severe threat for today really is going to be ending with the sun. Once the sun goes down, the severe threat's pretty much done for our area, for this entire system. But we start transitioning to a rain threat because the rain is not ending. Even though it's not going to be thunderstorms, even though it's not going to be severe, it is going to be heavy. There's just so much moisture in the atmosphere above us for all of this energy to tap into, and the heavy downpours will eventually add up. So, you know, for areas that have already seen 2 to 3 inches in Alabama, this is the leading edge of that storm. I want to point out to you, and I'm going to zoom out so that you can see it. You know, we're talking here, this is the leading edge of this. The back edge of this is still in Mobile, still down into the Mississippi Gulf Coast area. And these are areas that potentially have seen 5 to 7 inches of rain out of this system. Now, the good news is we're not predicting widespread amounts of 5 to 7 inches of rain for our area, but what we are predicting is widespread amounts of 3 to 5. And there could be isolated totals higher than that. So flash flooding is a concern as we head into the evening, overnight hours, especially into tomorrow as well for folks south of I-85. I think tomorrow, that's where the moisture line is really going to set up, is south of that interstate corridor. But as we go through the day today, it's kind of a double threat because we're telling you about the severe weather that we have rolling through, but at the same time, we also have the flooding. You notice behind these severe thunderstorm warnings, back into Auburn, back into Montgomery, over in Alabama, that's where we do have flash flood warnings already into effect. And I would not be surprised, Patrick, if we come into the next hour or two that we start to see flash flood warnings issued for folks who are in our viewing area as these rainfall totals continue to climb.
Yeah, because this moisture is just going to keep rolling in as we head through the next couple of hours. Just the rain is going to be a big part of the story. The wind has been part of it today. We haven't had a whole lot of storm reports that have come in. We did have that first report out of Coweta County about a tree that was down on a structure. We've also had other reports. We had a report out of Rockdale County near Lennox Drive Southeast and Georgia Highway 20 Southeast near Martha's Vineyard and Knob Hill. There was a tree that was just blocking the whole street. So we've had that report. Looks like no one was injured from that. Another report in Rockdale County of, looks like a home, a tree that's blocking residents from leaving or coming into a subdivision. So it's not blocking, it's not on a home, but it looks like it's actually blocking people from getting in and out of their home, so to speak, out of their subdivision. So something that we're going to continue to watch. And that's out in Rockdale County, where we had those showers and those storms that rolled through earlier, which I actually don't think that those were warned. I think that those were just 30, 40 miles per hour gusts maybe. But it just goes to speak, you know, you have a lot of rain that comes into an area, gets the ground all saturated, you got a gusty wind, and it knocks down a tree or two here or there. If it's not the whole block, it's, you know, it doesn't maybe ring as true. It's not as big of a deal maybe in a lot of folks' minds, but if that tree comes down on your property, on your car, blocks you from getting to your house, it's an issue. And that's why we just wanted to give you that heads up so that the tree doesn't, come down on you. I don't want to be out riding around when there's a severe thunderstorm warning, and I wouldn't recommend anybody else doing that. So still tracking a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings moving to the northeast. These storms are moving a little bit faster now. Latest update has them running at about 55 miles per hour. We'll continue to track this with you here on the stream. We would cut into programming if we felt like there was an imminent threat as far as a tornado, or if we had 70, 75 miles per hour winds rolling through. That actually kicks up the conversation a little bit. But because we're looking at severe thunderstorms, which are producing some strong wind, and we're getting some storm reports, we'll keep the conversation here. And we'll try to work to see if we can get access to your questions, because we're actually streaming from the studio because there is a little bit of spin in the air. If there's a tornado that does come down, if we do start to see a tightening or rotation, we want to be able to just move straight to TV so that we can get to as many people as possible. So we're going to do this from in here, and we'll try to get to your questions. Turning the lightning back on so that we can see. I also want to see if I can query some of these winds. Once again, a lot of these measurements are going to be winds that are in the upper levels of the atmosphere. They're not necessarily at the surface based off of the radar beam, although this is getting a little bit closer to the radar beam. So
I would expect these are about 5,000 feet off the ground, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not for this particular radar view here, because you see where Peachtree City is. You see there's a little donut hole up there, a perfect circle. That's literally where the radar is. So that's kind of what we're watching here right now. And you notice that little donut hole is a dropout point. So once you get so close to the radar, it just can't pick up anything. So anything that's directly on top of that Falcon Field is actually where it is. So thankfully not Peachtree City proper, but south of there at Falcon Field, which is the airport and where the National Weather Service is, that's where we have that radar data starting to drop out a bit. The other flip side of that, though, is the closer you get to the radar data without going into that little circle, because it's basically a little black hole where we don't have data, the closer you are, though, the more accurate data that we have coming in from the surface, because that radar beam is really low to the ground at that point. You got to figure these radar beams aren't really going up any more than 2 to 4 degrees into the atmosphere. And over the course of several hundred miles, that obviously adds up. But right now, you see Shiloh there up to the north of Greenville near Warm Springs, Manchester High School, that leading edge of that particular cell there. We've talked about it in the last few severe weather events that we've had. When you go from that green color to that red color.
They redo the polygon. That's why I was confused. Okay.
Yeah, so that green to red there is exactly where we have the strongest winds. And you just see that they did warn on that now. So it does include Spalding County, the city of Griffin, Sonoya. It does include Peachtree City over in Fayette County, Brooks in Fayette County, and then looking over towards Zebulon. You're just on the tip of that. And on the flip side of that, Fayetteville, Lovejoy, Hampton, you're just outside of the warning. But again, if it gets extended any farther, we are going to be talking about northern Clayton County. We're going to be talking about Henry County and eastern Spalding County. So, we are getting into the southern metro here, which is exactly why we're streaming. So to give you a heads up, because even though we have very broad rotation, look at some of these wind totals. And again, they're very close to the radar. So while not at the surface, it's a good indication that we have some very strong winds approaching the surface, at least 40 to 60 miles an hour. And it doesn't take much at this level of the atmosphere for the storms to be able to punch that down to the ground. We say it just kind of goes whoosh and come out of there. So go ahead, in advance of the storm, get away from your windows, and then make sure you're towards an interior room of the house. You want to kind of treat this like a tornado warning, because 60-mile-an-hour winds, especially with trees that are in a waterlogged, saturated soil, can do definitely a lot of damage there. So that's one of the reasons we're kind of telling you, take these out, take these all in, and just kind of prepare yourself and treat it for you. So again, we're going to be looking, can we time out this new warning? There we go. Okay, I got you. Yeah, cool. I'm going to zoom out just a bit. So I'm going to put it back on reflectivity just to kind of show us where the precipitation is, but more importantly, it gives us an idea of that leading line. Patrick, this new warning, is it still around 50, 55 miles an hour?
It is moving northeast at 50.
Perfect. Time me out here, and it's going to let us know that we're going to be looking at a turn at 3:37. So basically, that's in 3 minutes. Sonoya, Stars Mill High School, you're going to be looking about 3:45. Fayetteville, you're looking at 3:54. Woolsey, 3:55. Williamson, 4 o'clock. Lovejoy, 4:05. Griffin, you're in there as well. You're going to be right around that 4 o'clock time frame. In fact, so let me go ahead and take a few bigger cities on here to kind of give us, there we go. So you can see Jonesboro 403, Hampton 407. So again, some of these folks are outside of the warning. So Hampton, Griffin, technically not inside the warning, but you are close. And we have had a history of this warning being extended. And honestly, with as strong and robust as this lightning is, it would have to kind of take a lot of weakening over the course of the next 30 minutes, I think, for this not to get extended further. But heading on over towards Griffin again at 410. And the main threat of this is going to be very strong straight line winds, at least 40, 45 miles an hour, possibly 60 miles an hour higher. Once they get to that possibility of 60 miles, that's when they do trigger that warning. And you can see it's part of a broader line of this system that's going to be pushing off towards the northeast. So from Noonan all the way down towards Columbus in the Phoenix City area, that's where we have some of the strongest storms that are rolling through the area right now. Now, Noonan, the worst of it is pushing through your area. I think once this part moves out of Coweta County, you're going to be good in terms of severe weather. But again, what we are looking for is the rain threat to continue as we head into the overnight, because the rain still extends all the way back to Birmingham and then down as far south as to the Gulf Coast. So lots more moisture of this to come. But right now, we're just dealing with that leading edge of severe weather across the South Metro. Again, this warning does include portions of Coweta County, Spalding County, Fayette County, and extreme southern Clayton County. Kind of goes around Henry County a little bit, but again, I think folks in Henry County and northern Clayton County should be going ahead and getting their preparations in order. At the very least, just making sure your patio furniture is secure. If you have any plants outside that are not in, large planter boxes, but instead are kind of smaller pots, that's what we have on our apartment complex. So we have to bring those in every time we have a storm system like this that rolls through. So I know exactly what you're going through. But, thankfully, we are not seeing as tight rotation as we were earlier in the day, which means that the broad rotation is there and it can still quickly spin up. But the overall tornado threat, thankfully, with this particular system was low to begin with. We did have a few confirmed tornadoes in northern Alabama last night. But it does not look like that has come to pass for us, knock on wood. And we'll continue to watch these storms with broad rotation, but more importantly, some frequent cloud-to-ground lightning. Also, even though it's not a severe criteria, it can cause a lot of damage. I know Douglas County right now is responding to reports of some houses that are possibly struck by lightning. I want to use the word possibly because even in the chat they said, even though that's what they were called in as, they haven't confirmed that yet. But that is one of the threats that we're looking at is, lightning damage, wind damage. Hail, really not a big factor with these. It's just too warm in the upper layers of the atmosphere. And then also the isolated tornado damage. So again, let's go ahead and roll in here. I want to zoom in, get a little higher view, a little higher res view, because really this particular segment right here is the one I'm really concerned about, because that's where we have a really just super delineated is the word I want to use. I'm trying to break it down a little bit. Basically, it goes from green to purple really, really quick, over the course of less than a mile. And that's where we're having the strongest winds with this system. And again, that's moving towards Brooks at 352. We're looking at Williamson at 401, Hampton 407, Griffin 409, Atkinson Elementary School 409. Anything that you see basically from Hampton below, not quite in the warning yet, but it does have that potential to see some very strong winds as we go through the next hour and a half or so. Because again, even if the warning is dropped, it means that the threat for 60-mile-an-hour winds has diminished a bit. But if the warning is extended, it means it continues. But what I was trying to get to is if the warning is dropped, we're still talking 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds, not severe criteria, but still, Patrick, enough to do damage across these zones. And you see that little red shading in those counties? That means we still have that tornado watch in effect. So we're going to keep an eye on these areas of broad rotation just in case they do start to tighten up.
Yeah, we were mentioning that today was the first alert weather day. We've had this first alert weather day for several days now. The severe weather outlook has been, it's been shifted because the threat for storms continues to push to the east. So folks that are out northwest of it's going to be I-85, a lot of you, folks that are west of I-75, definitely for sure out of the risk zones together. The city of Atlanta is under the level 1 out of 5 risk for a strong to severe storm. And then that level 2 is shifted to the south and to the east. That's the area where we're also seeing the active tornado watch. So everyone no longer included in this tornado watch. We've been seeing those counties peeled back piece by piece over the last couple of hours. A couple of counties in Alabama have been peeled back, and I suspect that we'll gradually start to see some of our counties in West Georgia peeled back as this line of greatest intensity gradually shifts to the east. Right now, folks that are in Rockdale, Newton County, you're actually included in the tornado watch that lasts until the 7 o'clock hour. Fayette, Clayton counties down into Henry County, Spalding County, Pike, Lamar, Upson County, as well as Troup, Meriwether County, Coweta County, and Heard counties. You are still under the active tornado watch until 7 o'clock this evening. With that being said, we have no active tornado warnings. We do have this severe thunderstorm warning that First Alert meteorologist J.D. Dishroon just dove deeply into this bowing line where we're seeing some of the heaviest downpours and the strongest winds starting to push out towards the east. So folks that are in Sonoy, this is headed in your direction over the next few minutes. Griffin, you're right on the cusp of this warning. You'll want to make sure that you're prepared for this as it moves in your neck of the woods. In Fayetteville, Hampton, Locust Grove, you're not in the warning. You're just outside of it. Folks that are in McDonough, you are right outside of that warning as well, but this storm is making essentially a beeline in that general direction. Listen, folks, we are not done with this mess of a system. We're getting close to the end of the severe potential. Still got a couple of hours left with that, but we are not done with the rain portion of this. This is gonna be an all-night situation where it's gonna come in waves. It's not gonna be consistent for everybody, but the moisture will be just flowing up and down that boundary. The boundary will stall to the south of us. We shifted our first alert weather day. We extended it into Monday. If you were with us this week, we were telling you that the boundary was gonna stall to the south of us. We thought it was gonna stall a little bit further south, and that would have gotten most of us dry on Monday. But instead, it looks like it's going to stall a little bit further north. That has shifted, and we started having those conversations with you on Friday. We talked about probably adding a first alert weather day on Saturday for Monday, and all of the data continued to be pretty definitive about this sticking around through Monday. By Saturday morning, we had seen loads of data that all kind of hinted at that, so we issued a first alert weather day Monday, not for storms, not for damaging winds or tornado potential, but because we knew that there was going to be more rain, and that would equal a flood threat. And that's going to be where our story transitions as we head through the evening hours. Not expecting this to be Bloodmageddon, but there is going to be enough water out there that there could be some areas that pick up some accumulating water on the roads. Scattered showers will be likely and some stray rumbles at the 6 o'clock hour Monday, although I think this is mainly going to be a rain event for folks. But that also means that the morning commute is going to be a little bit messy, and we're not going to see this really go far. We were talking about the rain to the south and west, producing 2-3 inches with this last cluster of storms that's starting to lift towards portions of Troup and Meriwether counties. And our guidance, our models, our data all indicating that we still have another 1 to 2 inches of widespread rain, with some pockets potentially picking upwards of 3 inches in some of these storms over the next 24 to 30 hours or so. So something that we're watching, and that's why the National Weather Service has issued that flood watch that is in effect right now and will be in effect through the 8 o'clock hour. Now, I know a lot of you have our First Alert News app. I know a lot of you have YouTube, and you're just checking us out on YouTube like, who are these dudes? It's Sunday. They're talking about storms, right? A lot of you maybe went to our website because you saw it on someone's Facebook page, whatever the case. Thank you for checking with us. Thank you for trusting us. But we have something called the First Alert Weather app, right? We got a team of 6 meteorologists. We're about to be 7 again. Largest group of meteorologists in the Southeast. We work overtime updating that app. Sometimes, I'm not going to say other brands, but sometimes your phone comes with an app and it's just a computer model, right? Well, computer models sometimes tell you there's snow here when there's not. That's happened a couple times this year. The 6 of us that are here, we work together, we bounce ideas off of how our forecasts are looking. We work together to come up with a forecast that is going to be not only accurate for us, but accurate for all of these counties. Because any county that you see outlined here pretty much is a county that we actually serve, and we actually put a forecast together for you. If a warning comes down for you, your county, everybody within the geographical location of your county will get that alert saying, hey, there is a warning in Fayette County. There is a warning in Rabun County. There is a warning in Cleburne County. You will get that from us as soon as that warning comes down. And we actually try to get a little bit ahead of it sometimes. We did it earlier today. We were telling you out, if you have the First Alert Weather out, we were telling you about the Coweta storm. We were telling you that it was going to be on the strong side. Here's that QR code. This is just real simple. First Alert Weather app. It's in the Google Play Store. It's in the Apple Store. It's going to be what you need to go. And the cool thing about it is, We actually have the technology available at our disposal that if you turn your location on and you decide that, you know what, I'm going to New Orleans for Mardi Gras because it's turn up time. Ha ha ha, let's have a good time. There were some storms in New Orleans for Mardi Gras. If you have the
that would have come in handy this year.
Yeah, you have the First Alert Weather app. It sees where you are, so we can send you warnings for that location. So it's a dope feature. Enough tooting our own horn here. Let's get back to this radar. Let's dive into it because a lot of folks are under a severe thunderstorm warning right now, and they're wondering what's going on. I'm going to switch computers real quick, and then we'll dive. I want to take a look at the winds again just because that line is still pretty prominent, the Boeing feature there that we've been talking about for the last couple of hours, or at least the last hour with this particular storm. We can check out you still got some decent returns here. So you're still getting some decent winds here, probably upwards of 50, 55 miles per hour wind gusts. The further south you go, sometimes that kind of falls off a little bit with this structure, but some very, very strong winds embedded in this, and it is pushing to the east. The leading edge of this now, moving through Sonoy. If you're in Brooks, you're about to feel that wind come up over the course of the next few minutes. Williamson, still got a little bit of lead time. Hey, listen, if you're in Williamson, and this was trash day, yesterday was trash day, but, because Saturday you went to see the Braves, you got your life Saturday night, you forgot to bring the trash can in. This is going to be a good time for these folks out here. Concord, the wind's kicking up now, so you may need to stay inside. Zebulon, Williamson, Griffin, Orchard Hill, Milner. This is the time for you to go outside and, take those garbage cans that, are empty now because they were just serviced, and move them closer to the house. Anything that could become a moving, flying projectile, you want that closer to the house. Your house could essentially act as a barrier so it doesn't get swept up in the passing wind that's just out in the open. So those are the things that you can do, and then get back inside. Get away from those windows and doors. Find that side of your house that is furthest away from trees. I'm not saying that this is, a widespread thing, but there have been 5 or 6 trees that we've already confirmed that have come down in some of these storms, and we just want to give you the heads up. Not to mention, this area has already seen storms roll through. The grounds are saturated, and now we have more rain, and then we have more wind. And just within that last radar scan, First Alert radar is pretty dope, right? We can see radar, we can see rain. We can see snow, we can see precip, all different types. And it comes up different colors so that we know, based off of it being able to read the density and the weight and the shape of the different types of precip. But also we can switch it to wind mode, and we query a location, and as those winds change with that latest radar scan, the numbers update for us automatically. That wind that was roughly at 55 miles per hour just bumped up to 64. So no wonder this severe thunderstorm warning is still in effect. Those winds are now moving into Sonoy. They're now on the doorstep of Brooks because our radar scans is bringing that red into that region. So those gusty winds are kicking in. And if you're in Concord, those winds there now also pushing into your neighborhood. So we have that severe thunderstorm warning that stretches all the way to the north and east. And then there is another cell to the south and west, really just to the south and east of LaGrange. So this is going to be southeastern Troup County, and you got southern Meriwether County. You're included in this warning. The strongest part of this storm is still a ways away, so I don't want you to get complacent because you just see a couple of lightning strikes and the winds are 20-ish miles per hour in that area. This is all going to kick up as this line starts to push into your area. So I want to go back and time out this main line. I know we did that a few minutes ago, but new folks are joining the stream every day, and we need to give you as many updates to where they're going as we're getting that information. So this is moving to the northeast, roughly at 50 miles an hour. Now I'm going to take this out of the warning area because it's whether or not it stays warned, this is headed to the north and to the east. So Brooks, I told you those winds were kicking up. They are there. They're now on top of you in Brooks. If you're in Woolsey, this is going to be arriving at 3:54. That's about 6 minutes away. Fayetteville, this will arrive at 3:55, pushing into Lovejoy and Griffin. Same for Hampton at around 4 o'clock or so, and this will be arriving in Jonesboro at 4:05. If you're downwind in Stockbridge and McDonough, this is going to be arriving between 4:10 and 4:15. So still a little bit of a ways away, but a very strong storm that is at least producing some radar indicated 60 miles per hour wind gusts embedded in these storms over the last couple of hours. We can dive into the hail. A couple of the storms earlier had some hail. We mentioned to you earlier that in order for a thunderstorm to be severe warned, it had to have quarter-size hail or inch in diameter. And we're getting some of that. We're getting some of that good out to the south of Turin, southwest of Sonoy, we're picking up about 1.5 inches. And I know it's either Sonoya or Sonoya. This is a YouTube stream. It's our digital stream.
Sonoya.
It's Sonoya. Okay, I'm gonna get it right. Listen, I'm country. Y'all hear the twang coming out every once in a while. It's Sonoya. We're picking up about 1.5 inches diameter just to the south and west of Sonoya. So this is moving to the east, and I'm colorblind, but this is giving me pink vibes here.
It is.
Okay, see, we can have this dialogue.
You got it. That's definitely pink.
We can have this dialogue on this stream. Normally I would just say pink, purple, but since we can talk and banter back and forth. So this pink color here is indicating about 1.5 inches diameter. The color in between here, that's giving you about 1 inch. And then you get, this is basically small hail. Now keep in mind, it's very warm outside. So we're measuring this hail at the top of the atmosphere, right? Where it's coming out of the cloud. Because it's a little warm, there could be a little bit of melting that happens. So this 1.5 inches that's coming out of the sky may only be 3/4 of an inch when it hits the ground. It may be 1 inch, who knows? But it's a good indication that you're gonna see hail of some size when it's 1 inch in diameter in the sky. You're gonna get some of that hail coming down. We saw that a couple of weeks ago with some of those storms that rolled through. You guys sent us a lot of videos of some of this hail. So if you have hail videos, I suck at remembering numbers. But if my director has access to the number to text your pictures or send your pictures to, I'm gonna ask him to pull that number up for you. If not, we're gonna get it for you. When he does get it, he'll just pop it up and it'll just replace me. For now, we'll dive into this hail because this hail is moving along as well with this storm to the north and east. So if you're in Brooks, you potential to see some hail going to be in your area over the course of the next, I'd say 15 minutes or so, because the hail looks like it's lagging just a little bit behind the strongest of the winds. We'll see that'll be coming down the pipeline for you as well over the course of the next 20 minutes, I would say. And we were mentioning earlier that there's a lot of ways that severe thunderstorms are issued. You get the wind aspect, 58 greater miles, or sometimes it could be for hail, and that hail, all it has to do is be about 1/4 inch. I also want to take a look at power outages. We had some decent power outages earlier. In order to do that, we have to turn off a lot of stuff so that we can kind of get some accurate numbers here. And while there isn't an epicenter of crazy numbers, there's some power outages. You got about 2,000 people without power, and this is a horrible display, but we'll try this again. There we go. We'll go into the metro. You got about 100 people without power in Fayette County, about 1,500 in Coweta County. You got about 2,000 in both Clayton County, Fulton County, and Cobb County. And you have about 400 people or so without power in Carroll County. And it looks like Cherokee County, you have about 100 without power. So these storms have come through. They produced some winds. We've seen some trees come down. If there's any good news, so far we have had no tornado warnings. So far we have had no confirmed injuries or reported injuries, so to speak. And our power outages right now, for the metro at least, looks to be under 10,000. So we're in decent shape. This is not over yet. We still have a very active first alert radar, still have several storms that are fired up across the area, and we still have several active, or at least 2 active severe thunderstorm warnings across the area, the most aggressive of which is clear. It's moving through Sonoya, moving through Brooks. Folks that are in Williamson, you see that heavy rain off to the west, that wall of lightning and water coming into your neck of the woods, starting to inch into Concord. And we're still at least seeing some decent radar indicated wind speeds in some of these areas. So something that we typically look at to see if, hey, listen, is this weakening? Do we see any shifts in these numbers? Are the numbers dropping off significantly below that 55? Because when they start to drop off significantly below 55, you start to know that you got a weakening storm. And we at least still have some areas that are clocking in some radar estimated winds of about 55 miles per hour. And this is probably spot on. We had this conversation with you earlier, and by the time we're done with this, especially if you've stuck with us throughout these streams today, you're gonna be somewhat of a radar expert. But we have a radar site in Peachtree City, and typically the further away you get from that radar site, the higher the beam is measuring in the atmosphere, right? So technically, if you were, let's say if you were out in Raven County and we were using, there's a bunch of radar sites, so we wouldn't technically use this radar site for Raven County. But if we were, and it was giving us a radar estimated wind speed, it'd probably be trash for a lot of reasons. But it would also be inaccurate because it would be measuring way up in the atmosphere. You got to remember, it's shooting out at an angle, and technically the Earth has curvature itself too. So you got those two things working to send that beam a little bit higher into the atmosphere. Not that you asked for a science lesson, but here we are. This is a stream. This is the place for us to be meteorologists, but also sometimes teachers of that stuff. Anyways, we're close to the radar site here. So I said all of that to say this beam is going to be a little bit closer to the actual surface. Not quite there, but probably not far off from where that wind is saying it's at. So radar indications of around 64 miles per hour winds in that area. 50-ish miles per hour wind gusts moving through the Sonoria and Brooks communities, and this is lifting further to the north and east. So we're just gonna probably be tracking this storm as it continues to advance more through the metro. Folks that are in Griffin, you're right on the line of that warning, probably getting some 20 miles per hour winds at best right there, but those winds will start to kick up in a few minutes. Locust Grove, McDonough, Lovejoy, this is gonna be headed into your neck of the woods as we head through the next half hour or so. And if the National Weather Service continues to see the numbers that we're seeing, there's a chance that they could continue this severe thunderstorm warning to the north and east. JD, any more reports?
No, I'm looking here. So the home struck by lightning that we were telling you about in Douglas County, 2 out of the 3 ended up actually being struck by lightning. So Douglas County is working 2 house fires, 2 separate house fires that have been caused by lightning. So they're still, thankfully one of them sounds like it was minor, no flames, just some smoke and some wiring. Firefighters still on the scene on that one. Unfortunately, another one over on Bearden Road in Douglasville, if you're seeing a lot of smoke, that one is unfortunately heavily involved with fire due to that particular lightning strike. So, just goes to show you, we do have this, potential for damage from storms that aren't severe, because lightning is not that severe criteria. You either have to have a tornado, winds over 58 miles an hour, or hail over the size of an inch, which is basically a quarter size. Anything lower than that criteria doesn't qualify. And lightning just isn't one of those criteria because we have so much lightning with all the thunderstorms across the country. But you notice, looking on that radar there is some intense lightning with these cells that are moving through. But one of the things I do want to kind of point out to you, though, is take a look at the lightning strike counter. It's going down over time. So it's giving us an indication that not quickly by any chance, and these are still dangerous storms, but it looks like the storms may be starting a downward trend. So notice I used a lot of plausible words in there because I don't want to say this storm is getting weaker. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we are seeing signals that the storm may weaken in the near term. So anyone still in these warnings needs to treat them as the dangerous storms that they are. And again, because this is a heavily wooded area down here once you get into the South Metro, and particularly as you continue to head farther and farther south into central Georgia. That's a tree issue in terms of lightning. It's also a tree issue in terms of wind. It's not going to take a lot of wind for these trees to come down due to the fact that the ground is saturated from the rains that we saw this morning, and really also the rains that we saw earlier this week. And we've basically been going every 4 or 5 days and getting a hefty dose of rain across the Georgia area, and that really hasn't allowed the ground to dry out too much. So it doesn't take much to saturate the soils, and these rainfalls are going to do just that. And one of the issues that I think I'm concerned about, Patrick, is the fact that once even the storms roll out tonight, we're still going to be dealing with some gusty winds when that front moves through tomorrow. So even though it's only going to be maybe 25 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts, nowhere near enough for a wind advisory, nowhere near enough for a severe thunderstorm warning, but it's still, if you get 4 to 5 inches of rain today, it's still going to be enough to bring some trees down, cause some power outages, and hopefully, but not cause any damage to the homes or to folks out there. So that's one of the things that we're going to continue on. I want to zoom in now because we are starting to get a little bit closer to Griffin, which is one of our more larger population centers in this particular warning. I'm not saying it is the only one by any chance. I don't want any other folks going, well, hey, what about us? No. I'm just saying it's kind of the next large population center in the line of this shower, the storm, I should say. I don't even need to say shower. It's a severe thunderstorm. But you notice right in downtown Griffin, we're starting to see the lightning strikes just on the edge here. You're on that portion of green, and it's going to be turning into red very, very soon. But I will say that this is definitely not the same storm that we saw 10 to 15 minutes ago, where it had that really clear cut line, much like Zebulon's about to see. See how it goes from green to yellow to red really quickly? It's not quite doing that in the Griffin area. So I'm hoping that's some good news, and that means that the winds are starting to subside just a bit. Obviously, still 40 to 50-mile-an-hour winds are going to be an issue, but that's one of the reasons that I'm hopeful that we're seeing a little bit of improvement in the conditions for the storms. Patrick,
Go south, JD.
I was about to say, you made a noise, so.
No, I'm just looking at this rotation near Columbus. That's going to be just outside of our viewing area.
Yep. And they issued a warning for it. I mean, this is not our viewing area, so that's good for us.
Wait, scroll back out though.
Yeah, but I want to show this real quick.
No, but zoom out just a little bit. All right, so Upson County, this is not in your area, but just tell Upson County folks to stick with this because it's not warned for you now. Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, that's straight up classic velocity tornado.
And I would actually argue that because it looks so strong, we should actually urge people in Upson County, especially southern Upson County, to actually shelter in place and treat this, even though there's not an active warning for you now, this is your official first alert that there is a tornado warned cell with a very strong tornado feature on first alert radar that is headed your way. So let's go ahead and tell folks in Upson County to stay where they are, especially southern Upson County. Yeah. JD, I'm gonna check with First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez. We're talking right now.
Okay, so while you talk with her, I'll go ahead and take over. I mean, this is again on reflectivity. This is a classic signature that you would look to see in a tornado. And again, want to emphasize this is northeast of Columbus. This is not in our viewing area at the moment. We're keeping an eye on it though, because if it does get extended, we are going to be talking about Upson County, which is in our viewing area. So that's one of the reasons that we want to bring it to your attention. The other part is it's a good teaching moment here. So you can see that. Basically, whenever we have this kind of a curve into a line of storms, that's usually where the airflow is going. So I kind of showed you with that arrow, and you notice how it starts to spin and twist around itself. And that's basically, yes, the same area that we do have our rotation, where in this particular case, so we have the winds going away from the radar, we have the winds going towards the radar. These arrows are not as pretty as the other ones, sorry about that. But then we have that rotation. It's a little, I'm not going to say it's super broad. It actually is. It's kind of tight, but not super tight. But the other thing I want to look at is where is our debris? So not seeing a debris drop out. So what we would do is we would look for something actually quite similar to this, which is right here. So notice we have these yellows, greens, and everything. And we'd see if that would line up with the relative velocity, which it did kind of, but the fact that it has this spike in that last scan, and I'll show you in a minute as we go back one. But the fact that it kind of had that spike out of it, it's one of the things that we'd look at and go, no.
Yeah.
Because that's basically, it is the right spot, it is the right location, and it is lined up where it's supposed to be, but that line that comes out of it, that's the exact same color, lets you know that there's some distortion.
Yeah.
And that it's not something that we really should pay attention to. But right off the bat, though, it would kind of look like that, but no. But it's still as we go back to velocity, it's still pretty tight. It's not super tight. It's not that real classic, just right next to each other type of thing. But, we still have that inflow notch is what we call it. So
we're actually going to, for a second, and I want to make sure my director hears, we're going to stay on this stream, but we're actually going to do a 1-minute cut in to TV programming just to mention that there is a tornado warned cell to the southwest of Upson County. And while Upson County is not in the warning, they need to stick with us. They need to come and join us on this stream. And if this warning gets extended, we will at that point cut into programming. So Noah, at any point you can roll a cold open and we can just go to this. It'll be a 1-minute cut in, we'll get out. We just want to give folks in Upson County at least the heads up that we have at least a tornado warning from a pretty, at least decent signature on radar of a tornado that could be at some point moving to the northeast. It kind of, once again, looks a little sloppy, but there's some things in it that looks like this could potentially hold together. And if it does, we want to at least give folks the heads up that it's headed their way. So if you can give me honestly, the only thing that you have to do for me to know that you're ready for me to cut in is just roll the cold first alert open or breaking news open, whatever open you want to roll. I'll know that we're on TV. I will talk for a minute and then I will tell people to come and join us on this stream. And then we'll come back. We'll literally end the stream with whatever slate you have pulled up, and then we'll dive back into this conversation for our viewers online. So to the viewers online, we are not ending this stream. We're just gonna take 1 minute, 60 seconds to cut into programming, and give a broader audience at least a heads up. That's our whole goal. First alert. We first alert you. The moment we see something that looks like it could potentially hold on together, this is probably still, this is moving, I think, at 40 miles per hour. I'm going to double check. So we still probably have an hour before this heads our way.
Because I know exactly where the warning is.
We have a little bit of lead time there, but we want to give you
40.
as much. 40?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So Noah, whenever we're ready, just let me know. Keeping in mind, the viewers that are joining us right now on the stream, that this is not an active tornado warning for us at the moment. This is just a potential as we head through the next hour or so. So looks like we're getting that together now. Thank you. Good afternoon. Coming to you right now from the First Alert Weather Center. Right now we are watching a very active First Alert radar. We want to give you an update. We do have a tornado warning that's in effect from Muskogee County right now that is angling towards one of our viewership counties. None of our viewers are under a tornado warning at the moment, but we want to give you the heads up over the course of the next 30 minutes or so. Folks that are in Thomaston or any parts of Upson County, you could be included in this warning. What we have right now is a radar indicated tornado that is pushing towards the north and east. It's moving at about 40 miles per hour, so it is still a little bit of time away from Talbotton, and admittedly probably roughly 45 minutes to an hour or so from impacting some of our viewers. But we are seeing a significant couplet right now on First Alert radar that is at least indicative of a strong storm, a tight rotation, a rotating thunderstorm that could be producing a tornado to the south and west of you. We will continue to monitor this. We are actually streaming right now on ANF Plus. If you download ANF from the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, you can get our live stream that is actually happening right now. We will continue to track this storm on that platform. All righty, thank you. So we just wanted to give a little bit of a heads up to folks. Thank you for everybody that has continued to join us on the stream. The tornado watch continues for Upson County, Butts County, Talbot County. It looks like maybe a couple of counties out west may have been taken off of that warning, but we're still tracking a very active situation. JD?
Yeah. Herd, Troup, and Coweta counties have been dropped from that warning. So it just goes to show you as this line moves through, we're continuing to watch that. Really, this is kind of the last oomph of severe weather for the afternoon. Again, though, we're going to keep an eye on it. But so for those of you, I'm going to zoom out just a bit off to the north. So for those of you in Troup, Herd, Coweta County, so this does include Noonan, LaGrange, folks over on into the Franklin area, you are now no longer under a tornado watch. The rest of the counties that are, those are shaded in red. So that would be your Fayette County, your Clayton, Henry, down towards Upson, Lamar, Jackson, over in towards Rockdale, Newton, Greene, and Putnam counties. You are included until 7 p.m. tonight or until they drop the watch early. So you notice we've had a lot of counties that they've done that with because they don't want to keep you in that watch if the conditions are no longer favorable for that development. But you notice we do have a very impressive line of storms that are continuing to move through. Sorry I'm moving the radar around so much. I'll give it a pause so it'll let you reorient yourself just a bit. Atlanta at the top of the screen here. Then we have Griffin about to be under that severe thunderstorm warning. Thomaston down in Upson County. We just broke in live on Atlanta News First to give them a heads up that even though they're not under a tornado warning, there is something that's going to be pushing into their direction as we go through the next 35 minutes or so. Thankfully, it looks like this rotation is starting to broaden out a bit, but it still has that notch in there. That's what we're kind of concerned about. Whenever you see something like that, it's an idea that there's more air going into the system, and when it goes in, it starts to go up, and then it starts to spin. So that's exactly what we're seeing right now in that particular system. But moving off to the north, I want to kind of give a little look here at this particular warning. Really right now, it does not look like they are extending the warning, so I'm sorry I'm moving out of the frame. I'm reading the chat room at the National Weather Service, and right now it does. They don't have any reports that they're going to continue that warning. They also, though, have not said that they're going to let it go. So let me scroll up just a bit just to see how long this warning is going until. Here we go, 4:15. So we'll know in 7 minutes if they're going to either continue this thing. But right now, Griffin, this storm is right on top of you. Remember how earlier I said, hey, it looks like this little green and red. They're not really that close together. Hopefully that means it's weakening. That's why I use that plausible language, because you can see clearly it did not in this particular line where if you zoom in, literally over the course of, let's just measure this out because I'm curious. So here's the red, here's the green, half mile. Literally over the course of the half mile, we're going from that green to that red, and I think it's actually even less than that now with this new scan. I'm laughing just because of the irony. Now we're talking about 0.3 miles. So it's letting you know that downtown Griffin right now, we're talking, South Hill Street, Maple Drive, College Street, Memorial Drive in Griffin, Broadway Street. All of these areas are seeing some very strong winds and potentially some pea to nickel-sized hail. So that's not severe, but in these areas where we have the purple, that's where we are getting that potential for the hail in the area. And you notice earlier, Patrick, we were looking in this cell and we saw some very bright pinks in there. Now, not quite so much. We're kind of on that lower end. That's why I said it was more the pea hail size. Yeah. And then maybe nickel in some spots, but I think for the most part, we're going to be looking at just some pea-sized hail and very strong winds. Again, it doesn't look like, really honestly, if they were going to extend this out, they would have already done that because the leading edge of this is outside of the warning. But even though it may not still be severe in terms of that 58 miles per hour, it is still very strong. Winds 40, 50 miles an hour, nothing to sneeze at. They can still do a lot of damage and take the trees down. They can take power lines down. They can do things like that. Also, they can just cause some really nasty driving conditions. So we do highly recommend that when you're in these warnings, if you have errands to run, just wait it out. I mean, this cell's moving fairly quickly. So, we're going to be looking at maybe 10 to 15, 20 minutes of inconvenience for you to be kind of holding this out. So just wait to run those errands. I know it's Sunday and you got places to go, people to see because, well, most of you aren't in work today. But go ahead and just kind of give a little bit of a wait on that. So for folks, again, it doesn't look like they're extending the warning. They have gone with a special weather statement. Yeah, so basically that's their way of going. It has a weekend, but
we're still 50 miles per hour winds.
We're still looking at 50 miles an hour.
We're not 58, we're 50, so still strong, right?
So yeah, it's still a strong storm. You still got to pay attention to it, but that does mean so for folks into Locust Grove, eventually over towards Jackson, Flovilla, we're going to be looking at this to be heading in your way. But Griffin, you're getting pounded right now with some small hail, lots of wind, lots of rain, and we took it off for you, but yeah, lots of lightning going to be going on with that as well, Patrick.
Yeah, so I was just looking at that special weather statement to dive in, trying to see what they were thinking. The winds are still strong. They're still elevated there. They're just not as strong as they were before. I do want to just dive back into, I know that it's just outside of our viewing area, but we're going to probably do this every 5 minutes or so, just to kind of get an idea of what that storm is doing, where it's at, if it gets a tighter signature of rotation to the south and east. Still let's turn off the lightning so that we can really see what's happening. And yeah, there's still at least some rotation there. I still see a pretty decent rotation. This is going to be just over, looks like that's north of Box Springs, over Waverly Hall Road, Cartilage Road. I know this is outside of our viewership, but we're watching it very closely. If we can at least keep this together, which all indications that rotation may hold on, we'll have to watch southern Upson County for sure as we head through the next couple of hours. JD, do you remember how fast it was moving?
This particular one, I believe, was moving 50 miles an hour.
Okay.
Let me look at that real quick, though.
If it is 50 miles per hour, this would arrive in Upson County.
40 miles an hour. Sorry about that.
So that's going to be a little erroneous, but we can correct that really quick, very quickly, because this is not TV. This is a digital stream, so you get the analysis, you get the deep dive, you get the errors too sometimes as far as putting the wrong number in. But we have the right number in there now, and this is going to be pushing into Upson County at around 447. So if this does get extended into a warning, we're going to get that extension beforehand. But as far as the rotation arriving, that would be around 445. So if you're anywhere in Upson County, my message to you now would be to shelter in place. Don't wait for the warning. Take your computer, take your laptop, take your phone, download the First Alert Weather app. We are streaming this right now. Take us there, watch us there from your safe space, and wait until the storm passes over. It's 4:15 roughly right now. You got about, half hour to hang out in your safe space. Maybe 45 minutes if you want to wait until it's completely over you and out to the east. But that's not a lot of time just to make sure that you and yours are safe. This is a good time to remind folks what that safe space looks like. We always the first go-to is always a basement, right? But everybody doesn't have a basement. I don't have a basement. I live in an apartment building, so I'm not going to the basement. You always want to find the lowest level of your house, that interior room, interior bathroom, that walk-in closet. That's the best spot because you got clothes in there. You can just pull them down and use them as a blanket, use them as a pillow. Something that we always say is you want to avoid the windows and doors, those exterior walls. If the images out of Mississippi and Arkansas and Tennessee did not evoke the importance of being away from, like, some of the only rooms that were remaining in some homes were the bathrooms. Those living rooms, those dens, the back kitchen, gone. Like you can see the toilets in other places. You can see the couches across the street, the mattresses. People think the bedroom is like your safe space. It's your comfort, right? But it is not the place to be in the time of a tornado warning. You want to be away from all of those windows, all those doors, and be in that safe space. Opening windows does not help. I know that there's these wise tales that you open the window and you can decrease the pressure, which means that your roof, no. Leave your windows closed and go to your safe space. Find something to protect your head. That bicycle helmet, $15, $18 off of Amazon, you don't understand the lives that can save just by having something to protect your head. That's what you want to do right now if you are in Upson County, because you do have a very aggressive tornado warned storm that's at least making a beeline for you. You're not under that warning now. That's why we're not on TV. But if it gets a little bit closer and that rotation does hold, we will cut back into programming. You want to protect your home. If you're in a mobile home in Upson County and you have a relative that's 2 miles down the street, go to your relative's house if they have a home structure, because you're going to be safer in a solid structure than you will be in a mobile home. If not, Google real quick, storm shelters. Are there storm shelters near you? We actually did this for the last event. We had a list of storm shelters that were everywhere across our area. If you're in Upson County, you need to Google nearest storm shelter to me, nearest friend, nearest church, nearest gas station. You need to go to one of those structures if you're in a mobile home. And of course, you want to have that First Alert Weather app downloaded, locked, and loaded, because your boys are going to be in here tracking these storms for you until these storms move overhead. Not to mention, your girls are going to be tracking this storm the next time it happens, because we're 6 deep here. We got a big, large team to track all these storms for you as these storms roll through. So this is the time to remain calm and collected, because we all have our plan in case of emergency. If storms roll through, you have this meeting room in your house. It's going to be that interior room. For me, it is that walk-in closet. Go there, take your app with you, and we will continue to track this storm as it continues to push to the east. I want to dive back into the rotation. If we can swap to velocity, I will do that myself because I'm there now. We're going to dive back into this storm. Again, it's just to the south and east of our viewing area. But it's looking very interesting, and it's something that we'll have to monitor to see if it holds together. And admittedly, it's looking a little bit broader than it was looking before. But one thing with rotation, with thunderstorms that produce rotation, you kind of have to watch them. Yeah, we call it babysitting radar, but it's a child. Like children can be testy. I was one of probably the more testy children. Radar can be,
Shocker.
Not shocking. Radar can sometimes be testy. Thunderstorms can be testy. Sometimes they can act like they want to be good like children do until the parent turns their head away, and then the rotation tightens back up. That's why we never turn our heads away. We continuously babysit radar. And we're watching it to see how this storm behaves. Right now, this rotation is broader. Because it has a history of rotating and having a decent, tight rotation, we'll have to watch this as it moves to the east, northeast, over the course of the next couple of hours, because it could act up as soon as we even remotely turn our head from it. So for now, we're telling Upson County to be in that safe space, stay dialed in with us as we continue to track this storm. We'll stay with you. If this rotation broadens up enough, we'll let you know that. We'll let you to stand down. We're not going to tell you to turn up, because we got to watch this until it's over you, because once again, it does have a history of producing some rotation, and it continues to produce at least some rotation right now. This is well to the south of Talbotton, but moving to the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. So if you do have folks that are out there, you'll want to make sure you tell them to shelter in place.
And we have had numerous reports of funnel clouds with this particular supercell as it's moved out to the northeast. Unconfirmed reports of maybe one possible touchdown in the very rural northern part of the county that's below it. You'll have to forgive me. I have our county names memorized. I don't have all the Georgia county names memorized. But to the county to the south of this, to the southwest, right behind Patrick's Legs, you can see that that's where we kind of had that potential in this area right here for maybe a touchdown. But that's generally the direction this thing has been heading in. So if it continues that way, we're talking South Upson County, so that is some good news, the very southern end of that. Bad news is obviously people do still live there, but that's one of the things that we're going to keep an eye on. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here because in that last scan, we did get a little bit more of a tighter rotation on this. It's starting to come together in this particular cell in these 2 pixels here. So, we're talking 76 miles an hour one way, 55 miles an hour the other way, just 2 pixels apart. And the pixels are those little squares. For those of you who don't, we don't expect everyone to know our graphic terminology.
Right.
So, but that's extremely close together for 2 wind speeds that are polar opposites.
Bring those back.
Bring them back.
Yeah. So we call that gate to gate shear, right? You have winds one direction going a certain miles per hour, then you have winds the opposite going the rest. So in theory, what you can do is add these numbers together and you can get a guesstimation. Granted, it has moved since, but it was 70 something and 50 something. I think it was 75, 55.
Almost 130
so 130 miles per hour gate to gate wind shear. So we'll be watching that 130 miles per hour estimated winds. Rotating or not, I mean, that's pretty solid there.
Yeah.
But
well, the other thing, going back to what we were talking about earlier, this is a lot farther away from the radar. So this is going to be a little higher up. So that's not necessarily 130 miles an hour on the ground.
Right.
This is within the storm structure itself. And we do expect to see rotation. This is a supercell storm. One of the whole reasons it gets that name is because it is one cell just continuously rotating in the atmosphere. And that's why tornadoes drop from it. It's because it's already got that large, broad overall rotation going within the storm function. And you can kind of see it. Well, you could. I will say you can't see it as much anymore. But if we go back a few, you can kind of see that little notch right in here. And that's the overall rotation right there. So this was, a few minutes ago. As I push it forward in time, it's still kind of there, but it's not as impressive. So that's what it's letting me know is the supercell. It's not saying the storm is any weaker. What it's saying is that overall rotation is starting to broaden out and it's starting to get absorbed back into the line. It does not mean that it's over because that rotation can obviously, even when it gets absorbed, it can spit right back out again. The other thing that I'm concerned about is hail in this particular cell. And again, we don't have any active warnings in our viewing area. That's why we're a little bit farther to the south looking at this particular one. But look how dark that gets. We don't see the black color on the radar too often here over Beauville, heading up towards Olive Branch. So that's usually an indicator you got some pretty large hail in that particular area. And
wow, that's I think that's 2 inches.
Yeah, I'm trying to query it right now. Yep, that's some 2-inch hail. So that's considered extreme hail sized. We're talking egg sized at that point because even a golf ball is 1.75. So this is larger than that in the atmosphere. But, just kind of something to show you as we watch. I'm not quite sure. I'm looking here. As I zoom back out, I'm making sure we have there we go. We got the better radar. And see now, look, and now we have one more scan and you can clearly see that going back in. So again, that's why I said it doesn't mean that it's not weakening. It doesn't mean it's weakening. It just means it's kind of shifting around. The good news is though, it looks like it's shifting around to the south. So I'm hopeful that this can really just stay on the extreme southern end of Upson County. I don't think Thomaston's going to be in play for this storm. I think it's going to go well south of you. You notice they do have a severe thunderstorm warning that they just issued. Thomaston just barely included in it, but that massive hail that we're seeing, that's really going to just clip the southern edge of the county there. And reading in the Petrie City just said the exact same we just said, which is the area rotation is still there, but it's broadened out. We're going to let the tornado warning expire, but continue a severe thunderstorm warning downstream. So Upson County, that is our viewing area. They have extended the severe thunderstorm warning, but does not look like they're going to continue the tornado warning. Keep in mind, though,
we're watching this.
We're watching it because we just queried it, and there's a possibility of 2-inch hail, which is larger than a golf ball, that may be raining down on southern Upson County as we go into the next 30 minutes.
Man.
Is it, Patrick? This is a doozy of a one.
It is 2 inches in diameter. Once again, we had the conversation earlier about hail, how it comes out of the atmosphere, right? The radar is up there. It's powerful. So we showed you the wind. It could measure wind up there and the direction the wind is going. You can see birds. You can do all that kind of stuff. but also it can look at the density of the precip that is falling. It can actually, just based off of the beam, the shape, it can figure out what is falling and what is not falling. And the fact that it's powerful enough to tell us that we got 2 inches of diameter of hail coming down is just crazy, right? But on top of that, that 2 inches is up there. It comes down through the atmosphere. Temperatures have been in the 70s in this part of the state for the afternoon, even some 80s out towards Eatonton, which is just to the north and east. So it's been very warm. So as that hail comes down, it may melt a little bit, but it's not going to melt all the way. So you're still going to get some hail as this is moving into Upson County. If you're in Upson County and you have the First Alert weather app, you just got an alert for a severe thunderstorm warning, which is good in a sense, but it's not great. And not to mention, because this storm is rotating and it has been going through a little bit of a cycle here, we're not completely out of the woods yet that this rotation does not tighten up. So if this does in fact tighten up, the National Weather Service will reissue that tornado warning. For now, it is continuing downwind as a severe thunderstorm warning. So we have one active warning now in our viewing area, and that is Upson County, a severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect until, I got you, I promise. I'm talking before I can query.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, sweet. So we have a severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect until 5 o'clock, which is roughly 35 minutes. So we still have a very active situation. This time, we've been spending a lot of time down south, taking an occasional view. Something that has shifted, we lost tornado watches in some of our easternmost communities. We did gain some tornado watches. I think Jasper, Putnam counties, you are added to this, as well as Morgan. You were not in this tornado watch until about maybe 15 minutes or so ago, whenever the National Weather Service decided to extend that to the east. But we were focused on this cell. We wanted to at least dive into it. We wanted Upson County to at least be on alert for what at one point looked like a pretty significant rotation signature on First Alert radar. There's a lot of rain elsewhere. If you are in Atlanta, you're probably like, man, what you talking about, cuz? There's some scattered rain, because I saw some of the YouTube comments earlier today whenever we were tracking that first line of storms. And if you were unimpressed by that line that had at least 55 miles per hour winds confirmed in them at Hartsville-Jackson, then this is probably not going to be anything to you, because it's not gusting that high. It's not as stormy. It's just rain. But we do have some storms. Folks that are in McDonough, we can dive into that, because that part of the cell looks a little bit aggressive here. We were picking up on more lightning. First Alert meteorologist J.D. Dishroon and I were talking to you about sometimes what can happen with these lightning signatures here. It lets you know that you got a storm sometimes when you start to see the lightning strikes increasing, the intensity of those lightning strikes and the frequency. It lets you know that you got at least a developing storm that's kind of trying to get its act together, trying to grow. We'll dive into some of those wind speeds embedded in this storm to see, oh, wrong radar site, to see what it's doing. Obviously, it's not at severe limits yet, but definitely at least some wind. You have 30 miles per hour winds at least embedded in that. So that's not going to be worthy of a warning, but you got some heavy downpours and a lot of lightning. If you were traveling on I-75, first of all, I-75, any day of the week traveling south is just, I'm with you, because it's always a little bit of a backup. I guarantee you now, I don't know if we can pull, if we have a producer in the back, if they can pull a traffic camera from down there for me. If not, no biggie, but it'd be interesting to see what's going on in Locust Grove. Probably quite the lightning show right now with those storms. We don't really have one of our weather cameras there, but the traffic cameras probably will pick up on something good down there. But you can see I-75 is just a mess. You got heavy downpours from Stockbridge into McDonough, but man, Locust Grove is where it's really getting lit up right now. That would be the spot to check out. Lots of lightning and some heavy downpours. The winds, radar estimating about 30 miles per hour or so, but nothing that's overwhelming. All right, check it out. So we're going to keep monitoring these storms. We have that active severe thunderstorm warning that is in Upson County. I am going to track it out. I think this is moving at around 45 miles per hour to the north and east. So I'm going to track this out for some of our folks there, because I want them to have at least a little bit of lead time. So this is going to eclipse Thomaston at around 4:47. So still a little bit of a ways away, arriving at 4:47, pushing into Yatesville at around 5 o'clock and Forsyth at 5:21. First Alert meteorologist JD Dishron and myself will continue to dive into these storms. We'll continue to dissect them if we feel the need to come back on because more folks are in the path of what could be potentially dangerous situation. We will cut back in. For now, we're going to leave you to the stream. We're going to give you also this QR code because the First Alert Weather app is the best. It's the dopest app out there for weather. We got a live radar that you can access to. We've been diving into our radar, showing you how dope it is. You got it on your fingertips now. If you download this free First Alert Weather app in the App Store and the Google Play Store, you're gonna get our homemade updates. You're gonna get our hour-by-hour updates for your forecast. It'll tell you what you can expect in your neighborhood down to your zip code. And then, of course, we'll send you daily updates on that pesky pollen count that has really just been a beast. For now, download this app, y'all. We will see y'all on the news. We got a newscast coming up at 6. Otherwise, have a fantastic evening.